Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Ethanol Producer Magazine podcast. I am your host, Katie Schroeder, Contributions Editor with EPM. Today, we are hearing a panel preview for this year's upcoming International Fuel Ethanol Workshop, located in Omaha, Nebraska. This year, Track 3 covers co-products and product diversification. Today, Chris Clausen, Director of Technology for Bioprocess Solutions at Trucent, is giving us a preview of his presentation, Corn Oil Separation Best Practices, How to Monitor and Influence Yield and Quality. Chris will be giving the full presentation at the panel Advances in Oil Recovery and Co-Product Optimization, Part 1, on Tuesday, June 10th at 1 p.m. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose this topic for presentation at FEW?
So I'm an engineer by training, went to the United States Merchant Marine Academy and spent my first part of my career on ships, merchant and Navy ships. And that's where I started working with centrifuges. I've been working on and with centrifuges for a little over 20 years now, the last 8 or 9 specifically for the ethanol industry. In that time, I saw that there's a wide range of understanding on how centrifuges work and what can be done to increase efficiency of a centrifuge. And I want to be able to give some practical points for operators that they'll get value out of these specific points in their day-to-day operating of the plant.
Awesome. Thanks for kind of introducing some of your background for us. Appreciate that. So this is the first of a 2-part panel on oil recovery and co-product optimization. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on why DCO is such a hot topic for the ethanol industry in recent years?
That's a good question. I think from a high level, it speaks to plants wanting to operate as efficiently as possible. DCO, if you put everything to a pound-to-pound basis, DCO is the most valuable product in an ethanol plant. The last time I looked, it was about double that of ethanol and 6 to 7 times that of DDGs. And there continues to be a market demand. There was a recent study that said that the market demand for 2024 was about 6.12 billion, and they expect that to grow to 8.2 billion by 2030. A lot of that demand is being driven by the renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel forecast growth. All the predictions that I've read are indicating that the demand for DCO is going to continue to grow. So getting every drop that we can out of a plant just means more at the bottom line.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense why this would be such a hot topic. So in your abstract, you mentioned that you plan to discuss some of the most influential variables that can be impacted to improve yield and meet specifications for DCO quality and such. So could you talk about what an influential variable is and how an ethanol producer can identify one?
Yeah, so I think that can get broken down into kind of 2 main categories, one being yield and the other being meeting a specific specification. I guess starting with the first one, with yield, to optimize your yield, the math of it is Stokes' law. That's the physics law that governs separation of solids and fluids. If you look at the variables in Stokes' law, that is what tells us what we can do, what variables we can influence to increase the yield. What Stokes' law actually tells us is how quickly we can make that separation. So things like droplet size, viscosity, and a term called G seconds, which just means how many G's or gravities is the fluid or product under for how many seconds. And if we look at Stokes' law, we can start to dive deeper into those variables and see how we can influence them. And so the best practices for yield come out of that. Now, the second part of that, the meeting a specific specification, will a lot of the times be dependent on what contractor or where the DCO is going. Is it going to feed? Is it going to RD? Is it going to SAF? And with those, you're looking at what particular specification needs to be adjusted. Is it moisture? Is it metals? Is it some other compound that would be an inhibitor to a downstream process? Just because oil specification is good for one outlet doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for another. So getting into what you can do, especially post-centrifuge or post-separation, to make it a better feedstock for whatever contract or whatever outlet you currently are putting your DCO to.
So I know another thing you mentioned in your abstract was you plan to talk about cleaning practices. So I'm curious, how do cleaning practices impact oil recovery or meeting specifications, I guess, either one of those two categories?
Well, it'll affect both. Cleaner machines operate better and they cost less to operate. Centrifuges, no matter the type, like consistency. Buildup of foreign material within the bowl or scroll will disrupt the optimal flow dynamics, and CIP quality can vary within a plant depending on the cycle, the cleaning cycle, depending on the time of year, what it's been through, and then certainly from plant to plant. A lot of the times, well, not a lot, but sometimes I should say, we see that centrifuges are doing more benefit to the CIP. They're cleaning up the CIP fluid rather than the CIP fluid cleaning up the centrifuge. And there are certain things that we're going to talk about on ways to identify how the CIP is performing, whether or not it's doing its job so the centrifuge can do its job.
Exciting. Wow, that sounds like some important information. Looking forward to hearing about that. So what are some of the pre-treatment options that are available to ethanol producers, and how does pre-treatment impact the oil quality coming out on the end of the process?
Yeah, so pre-treatment can have a big effect on both yield and quality. Specifically for quality, our job, well, I guess for both, our job is to make as much free oil as possible before the centrifuge. And then the centrifuge job is to get as close to 100% separation efficiency as possible. For quality, if you think about the process flow, for a given flow rate, the G seconds that the feed will or the syrup will see is going to be consistent. The bowl, scroll, those are all spinning at the same RPM. The flow rate is the same. So the G seconds, the geometry in the bowl isn't changing. So the syrup is going to see the same G second condition. If we do our job well with pre-treatment, most of the oil should separate very quickly. And that will allow more of the G seconds that it's experiencing to be spent on cleaning the oil instead of separating it out. If you think of a bottle of Italian dressing, you set it out on the counter and it will start to separate solids at the bottom and a vinegar layer and then an oil layer. If you think about what the centrifuge is doing, it's just speeding that process up. So if you have 60 seconds to pour out as clean of an oil layer out of the bottle as you can, you're going to have a much cleaner oil decant off of that bottle if the bottle was first sitting on the counter, if it's already separated, versus it being shook. You're going to have vinegar in there or heavy phase solids in there. And so that's kind of an analogy that I like. I think it's a good visual. So if you have the separation happen as quickly as possible by leveraging those variables in Stokes' law, then more time is being spent on cleaning up that oil section.
Yeah. Thanks for breaking that down for us. I'm looking forward to hearing the whole presentation. How long have you been coming to the FEW, and kind of what are you looking forward to most this year?
I went to my first FEW in 2017. So thinking back, I'm not sure how many years we had a hiatus because of COVID, but that makes sense. My favorite part of FEW is that in my day-to-day, I talk with plants on the phone, through email, and it's one of the only opportunities that I have to actually see the people that I work with face-to-face. And so getting to know them on a nicer level, or a better level, human level, is always fun. As far as topics, I'm a nerd. So I'm excited for hearing about data collection, analytics, how AI can help the industry improve, and then any new technologies, like learning about what people are thinking of and new angles that they're coming at problems. We're really problem driven at Trucent, so I love thinking about, all right, well, how can we solve this headache? And learning how other people are doing it is just a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, Chris. To our listeners, if you want to catch Chris's full presentation, he will be at the Advances in Oil Recovery and Co-Product Optimization panel, part 1, at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, June 10th. You can go to few.bbiconferences.com to see the full agenda, register, and learn more. We hope to see you there.